In this episode, we talk about everything to do with fitness and nutrition. We talk about the importance of systems over goals. We spend time myth busting in areas of nutrition and fitness. And we talk about metabolic typing and how it is the key to creating a diet that works. Welcome to Man Quest Define Meaning, where we help men navigate modern life, find their true purpose, and redefine manhood. I'm your host, James, and each week, inspiring guests share their journeys of overcoming fear, embracing vulnerability, and finding success. From experts to everyday heroes, get practical advice and powerful insights. Struggling with career, relationships, or personal growth? We've got you covered. Join us on Man Quest Define Meaning. Now, let's dive in. We don't rise to our goals, we fall to our systems. Good morning, Ashley. Can you explain more?
Hello, I hope so. I'm trying to articulate it as best as I can. So, as a nation, we're quite goal-focused, which is great. And in amongst, there's a problem that within amongst itself as well, because to specify an actual goal is quite a challenge. So I'm probably coming at this from sort of the wrong end of the stick in some sense, but I talk to multiple people a week about what their goal is. And a lot of the time the goal can be quite vague. It's kind of like, why are you here? Well, I want to lose weight and tone up. I was like, what does that mean? Like, can you home in on the actual precise rationale behind that? Like, do you want to lose weight or do you want to burn fat? Oh, I actually want to burn fat. Okay, well, where do you want to burn fat? Well, I want to burn fat around my umbilical abdomen region and sort of tricep. Okay, so you want to burn fat, not lose weight. Okay, do you want to change body composition? What's the reason behind that? And it's always 10 times out of 10 a psychological reason behind that. So getting someone to specify a goal is one thing, and actually that's a challenge in amongst itself, as I've already alluded to. But the biggest challenge is how to get there. Like, we need a system in place to achieve that. We need a strategy. So, for example, and I'm not necessarily relating everything to the fitness game, but I want to be a millionaire. Okay, great. How are you going to do that, bud? Like, what's the strategy? What's your game plan? Like, we really, really overwhelmingly, in at least my experience, we really sort of fail at that. Like, specifying a goal is actually a challenge. Whether that's like a personal quest or some sort of like spiritual journey we're on, or whether it's a fitness, like a goal within the physical realm, a financial one, goals within relationships, goals within finances. And then the next bigger question is, well, how the hell do we get there? Because we've all got treasure. We've all got like a star that we should be pointing at. But it's like, well, okay, well, another sort of classic one that I hear quite commonly is, I want to look better. Or, okay, well, what's the nutrition look like? And everyone says, oh, I eat really well. It's like, okay, well, let's dive into that, shall we? And it's really difficult for me to not come across judgmental. And I think I have been guilty of that in the past, absolutely. But you do have to make judgments because that's what you're getting paid for. And you kind of have to have a bit of a courageous conversation, or a good friend of mine calls it a sweaty 10-second conversation. And, being sort of bold enough and blunt enough to be like, well, actually, you've got a goal, which is great, but the system is lacking. And we need to change that because it's currently not working. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a load of sense. It's funny because goal setting and having a clear vision of what you want, it's hard. It's
Very
hard
difficult
to know because in our mind very limited. Our mind's very limited because we only know what we've seen or what we've learned. So we're very limited on knowing. And so there's a level of almost having a plan in place and almost sometimes surrendering the hows and allowing what needs to come up. So I'll give you an example. So say, for example, you want to create a brand new course on whatever subject. It's great having, I think, an end goal or end product of what the course looks like. But our mind's limited. What if we allow ourselves to step into the unknown, and in the unknown and in trust, we can allow stuff to come up through intuition, through a sense of exploring, a sense of curiosity, a sense of wonder. But at the same time, there also has to be a level of like fitness goals. There has to be a level of so many steps ahead, or even the next step ahead in place, so we have a direction.
I think you raised a really good point there about using your sort of initiative or your sort of psychic ability, or what was the word you used?
Intuition.
Yeah, I'm super interested in that at the moment, because initially that's the catalyst for movement. So, for example, if you wake up in a fog, don't know where this analogy is going, but bear with me. You're going to have to use your intuition to initially know what direction to go in. That's a feeling. And you have to sort of you got to have a real super like in tuned compass to know which direction you're going initially. And then the system should take over, providing you've got the right infrastructure and system in place to do that.
Yeah, I feel like also when it comes to having a plan in place, you have, with regards to the vision, you still need a idea of the direction you're going in.
Yes,
with that vision, suddenly you can allow whatever needs to come in to give you the ideas to think, oh yeah, I've never thought about that. Or so, for example, I'm very much into the spiritual realm. Obviously, I'm in the fitness realm as well, that kind of thing. But I'm utilizing dragon energy as a way to clear blocks, to clear limiting to beliefs, to clear whatever needs to be cleared. Now, with regards to what I want to do, I want to create a course. I don't know how I'm going to create the course because it's completely out of my realms. It's out of my realms of expertise. But at the same time, who has the realms of expertise in dragon energy? Nobody does. You know, in the sense of almost trusting and allowing that intuition to guide you to where you need to go. And it's almost a sense that with this goal, personally, there has to be a level of trust that in that moment, you will know what you need to do.
When you say, sorry to butt in, James, when you say dragon energy, is that something I would interpret as like yang energy? Sort of the masculine frequency? Is that what you're sort of describing there?
So I would say it more as fire.
Fire.
I would say it more, so I'd say it more as fire. I wouldn't say it as masculine or feminine. I'd say it more as utilizing fire as a way to clear underneath blocks and stuff.
Okay, so yeah.
Transformation to do with stepping in passion, that kind of thing.
So sort of allowing the deadwood to burn off to allow new growth to prevail, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's more along the lines of just a sense of trusting and knowing that in that moment, whatever needs to come up will come up. So not even having a plan in place, a rough idea of what you want to create on the course or create with your goal, but then having a level of flexibility and space to allow inspiration to come in.
Yeah, love that.
Especially explaining it.
Yeah, love it. What sort of course are you looking to design? Like, what's the narrative there? What's the snapshot?
I'm not sure yet. The snapshot is I'm thinking if I can have an event next to where outside in nature, we can have a fire. It's obviously the dragon energy, and it can be about an idea of letting go of burning old stuff that needs to be let go of. of yeah.
When I was signing up,
Bring, yeah, signed up.
I need some of that.
There's one already. There's one already. I'll let you know about it. But I'm thinking perhaps in the next couple of months, it just seems, so one thing I've come to realize about goals, about vision, is about giving yourself the space to explore. And I'm getting a bit hot in here. To explore almost a level of surrender that sometimes we have a limited view, but if you allow your intuition, your spaceness, your spaceness, that's the best way of describing it, stuff can come in. Whereas quite often we're in our mindset of, we need to do this. We're busy being busy, so we have no space. So we find it, inspiration can't come in.
I fully agree with that. Absolutely. That's why I think I've certainly been guilty of that. I don't want to sort of deep dive into what I think's wrong with me because we'll be here all day, but I've certainly got some varying degree of attention deficit disorder going on, and I'm quite a busy guy, and I'm quite disagreeable by nature, and I'm certainly naturally very unorganized, and I forget things. So what I've had to make a conscious choice about and treat it as a daily practice is just to sit by myself for 20 minutes, do some breath work, empty my head, be at one with self, and allow thoughts to come in, sit, and then pass, and then come back in. You got to allow that time, and like you've, I think, accurately demonstrated and used the word space. You got to create the space to allow intuition and the creative part of our brain to become active and listen to it.
Yeah. So just quickly going back to what we were saying before about having a system in place, knowing the steps. With regards to people, what I've noticed is that quite often people will progress so far, and I've been there before. We'll progress so far, and then suddenly you'll stop. I'll give you a perfect example. During COVID, I recorded, I think it was about 80 episodes with the idea of launching the podcast, but then at the same time chatting about how people take action, what they do, what kind of steps do they take. But I never launched it.
Interesting.
And so it's only that been last year where I launched this podcast, and I've just literally almost like boom, boom. It's more, sometimes I feel there's a fear. There's definitely a fear inside us saying, oh, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough. Or, no, you can't do that. You'll be seen and people will judge you.
I couldn't add or take away anything from that. People will see, people will judge. And that's the fear that we all have. I think action beats inaction a lot of the time. So the fact that you've obviously been consistent in what you're doing and creating a habit of it and making it habitual, I think hopefully that's overpowering the fear of whatever the fear you have, really. Certainly, I'd agree with that 100%.
So where do you see people that, with regards to the fear, with regards to your clients, where do you see that people have the biggest downfall?
I think people often will. There's a couple of fears that have been too frequently observed by myself for it to not be an issue. So the first initial fear is the doubt within themselves. So the doubt that they can achieve what they want to achieve, the fear of specifying what their goal is, for the fear of failing and that becoming somehow public knowledge, or they have to look in the mirror and be like, oh, I failed again. But the problem with not specifying a goal is you will fail by default. only silently, and that will eat away at you. So there's the fear of not accomplishing or being brave enough to ascertain what the goal is, and then something that's probably more practical that probably a lot of your watchers and viewers and listeners will probably appreciate more so perhaps is the practicalities of entering a gym. Like, who's watching me? Do I look silly? It's a fair fear. Like, there probably will be people judging you. I'm not going to pander to the narrative that doesn't happen. But the problem is, like, every black belt was once a white belt. You can't just jump into something and be an expert. God knows I know that. Like, the amount of failures and mistakes I make on a daily basis is probably quite harrowing if I think about it. But you just have to confront the dragon and deep dive into it. But you have to do it sensibly. You have to do it with the right intentions, I think, the right motivations, and you have to see it for what it is. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think consistency beats intensity, and people sort of see the before and after pictures and they're like, oh, well, I want a six pack. I fancy that, which is great. I mean, that's a goal. That's fine. But they don't see the hours upon hours of food prep and the multiple times they have to say no to Karen's birthday at work who's passing around the muffins. They want the view, but not the climb. They want the accolades, but not the training ground. It's that sort of thing, right? And does that even answer your question? I don't know if we've digressed.
Yeah. I think we digressed quite a few times. With regards to the podcast, I'm quite easy flowing where the podcast goes, which sometimes can be a detriment because you suddenly go right off topic and then you have to kind of bring yourself back. But there's a few things that I've noticed. I've noticed a few times people say that they will start going to the gym when they've lost a bit of weight. And I say to them, well, the whole point of going to the gym is to lose weight.
Yeah.
One fear I've noticed with myself is that you have, when you set a goal, you want to have this vision of what you want to look like, but you don't want to commit to that vision in case there's something better.
Yes.
And so it's a hard one to get over, I think, because you find sometimes you don't start because if you do start and it's the wrong goal, you're going to think, oh, I've sold myself short.
Well, that's a great point. Yeah. And it kind of goes back to sort of our previous point about specifying a goal. Like, it has to be the right goal. There are multiple goals. What goal do you want to commit to? And that's a choice within it. That's a hard choice.
How would you go about committing to it? Or how would you go about making the choice?
I think it's about priority. I think there are multiple reasons why. Let's take the fitness setting for a quick example. Like, there are multiple goals. Some of it could be cosmetic. Some of it could be health. Some of it could be just to get away from work for an hour and have some you time. How much of that is a priority? And I guess the biggest strength and weakness of setting a goal is you're policing yourself with that. So you really have to use your intuition and you really have to specify where your priorities lie. Because if you don't want to commit to, say, hypothetically, a 12-week transformation, you will unlikely get a six-pack. Which is fine, but it just means you hold priorities elsewhere. And I was like, my mum always told me when I was about 12 years old, and I always tried to practice by sort of mode of being by this. It's don't mess with people's free will. Never do that. So people have a choice, and it's their choice to commit to something or not, and it's up to them. Like, I'm just like, certainly within the gym arena, like, I am just a tour guide. Like, if you don't know where you're going, I will point out the buildings, I will point out the obstacles, I'll point out the challenges, and I will give you, as best as I can, the best strategy to overcome those. But if you're not interested in what I have to say, that's fine. But just know you probably won't get to where you want to be.
Yeah. Well, I think especially in this world that we live in, there's so many, because we see, like, for example, we see fitness models who are muscular and ripped, and we think to ourselves, we want to be like that. That's just that. I feel like that's just our ego saying, "Oh, I want to be like that." And you know what I mean? So, like, is it something that we truly want?
Yes.
Or is it something that we want because we want to impress that person, and that person? And that brings us down to the whole avenue of self-worth, feeling good enough in ourselves before we want to, knowing that we're already there.
It's a great point.
And we haven't got to be there to prove, to impress anybody else.
I think it's a great point. I think, let's take me, for example. So my goals have always relatively remained the same. It's a bit of a sliding scale. But my motivation to achieve that goal has changed over the years. So to give you some context, I used to get bullied at school for being skinny. It was like, well, I don't want that, so I'm going to slap on some muscle. And no girls paid any attention to me. I was always the guy standing at the school dance without anyone wanting to dance with them. Woe for me, pity party, you're invited. So I slapped on some muscle purely for that reason. And then I was like, there's actually money to be made in this. And then it became more of a sort of a business-driven motivation. Like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. Like, maybe I could look into becoming a personal trainer. And it became like a financial motivation. And now I'm old and boring and worn out. I use it as part of my daily practice to prove to myself that I can do hard things. I use it as a daily practice to meditate. I use it as a daily practice to have some ash time. And as a byproduct of that, I think it's made me more healthy and certainly more fit than I would be had I have not taken up that goal and committed to it in the first place.
Yeah, I think the journey of self-worth and feeling good enough it can be quite a long one, an arduous one. And I feel it's down to, we have a lot of limiting beliefs down to, back to childhood. I think it all stems from childhood, our own child self.
I think we're all just broken children, right? Ultimately.
Yeah.
We're trying to navigate through life.
Yeah. And we've got to almost have this journey of self-discovery, of learning where did these beliefs come from. And I've forgotten how many times in these podcasts we've talked about inner child healing and allowing this inner child to become healed. As soon as and allowing ourselves to actually feel the emotions that were then. Because
it's a goal.
Yeah, that's a big goal. Feeling the emotion, our suppressed emotions. Huge, one.
Biggest goal. Massive.
I think we've gone like this with regards to topics. But can you tell us your story, please, Ashley?
Yeah, sure. So I guess professionally speaking, I was given a really, really good opportunity, and I was only 18, 19. I became a fitness manager for a commercial facility back in 2009-ish. 2008, 2009. I was there for 5.5 years. Managed a team of 10. Just always had this. I'll go back. I'll regress to progress. So I like many people, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. Not a clue. And I lived in Surrey, just south of London there. I was born North London and sort of resided for a lot of my sort of years in Surrey. And there was always an expectation that you had to be successful. And that's a vague term, I know, but I saw my peers and sort of like my school friends. They were always like extremely academic. Like I was always kind of blessed. I was always blessed to be almost like the dumbest guy in the room, because you don't want to be you don't want to be the most intelligent. You don't want to be the prettiest. You don't want to be the strongest, because who are you going to learn off? So I saw that as a strength. I saw that as an opportunity. And it was like, these guys around me know what they're doing. I don't. So I'm going to learn. And I got work experience at 15 years old at a local gym. And I absolutely loved it. I was cleaning treadmills, engaging with members, learning new exercises, learning how to cash up and do the scum line on the pool. And I just felt that there was a purpose there. Like, I was like, okay, this to other people might not be considered to be much of a job, but I found purpose in that. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I wasn't told about this at school. Like, they pay you to train people. People pay for that. Like, it opened up a complete like encyclopedia to me as to things that I need that sort of poked an interest, I guess, within me. And sort of 3 years after that, I was managing the gym there, and I was like, wow, this is brilliant. I spent a really, really good, productive, positive 5.5 years there. And then from 2012 to 2018, I had my own gym, Elite Health and Performance, and that was incredible. Like, again, I don't know if it was luck, hard work, opportunity, a combination of the three perhaps, but I was just absolutely booked up. Like, I spent my initial sort of year just training sort of semi-pro to pro level athletes and celebrities, and that was certainly an opportunity that came my way. But I always say to people, well, you have to take the opportunity, right? The goal's not going to score itself. You still have to tuck it away. And I did that. And then it kind of came to a bit of a natural end. I think I probably got very, very burnt out. Couldn't take on any more clients. Didn't really want to expand the business because I felt like it was sort of my baby, and I didn't really have much faith in other trainers to take on my clientele. And so my then girlfriend and myself at the time sort of sold up and moved to Australia, in Perth, in Australia, where I managed a brand new facility out there. Spent a year there, and then my then wife fell pregnant with our first baby, and we decided to move back to the UK. And I've managed 5 other gyms in that time, and I've found myself currently where I am at Nuffield Health, Stoke-on-Trent. Enjoying life. I've come up against some adversities recently that I'm trying to navigate my way through, just to keep the conversation real and organic. But I feel I've probably got the skill set and the experience to try and do that as best as I can. So, yeah, I guess technically speaking, in terms of credentials, I'm what's classed as a biomechanical specialist, a master personal trainer. I've got huge interest in psychology and nutrition. And that's kind of all I am, really.
Can we delve a little bit deeper into your current adversities?
Yeah, absolutely. Depends how honest you want me to be. But
what's going on? Because I'm just thinking this is like a perfect opportunity where we can actually, from real life, start to kind of talk about how people can start to navigate these kind of things.
Yeah, I think I'm more than happy to share that. I'll certainly disclose as much as you think I need to. And I think the motive behind me wanting to surrender what I'm going through at the moment is the same motivation as to why you've asked me. It's organic, and people don't want to hear about. People largely don't want to hear about how to become a millionaire by millionaires. They want to know the nitty gritty. They want to know what losing a fight looks like, and they want to know other people's adversity so they probably don't feel alone. And I'm more than happy to share that. So I'm going through a separation with my wife at the moment. It's been tough. It's pretty raw and pretty fresh still. This is someone who I wanted to commit the rest of my life to and start a family with and buy a house with and all the nice bits and pieces. And it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. I'm still trying to probably come up with an honest answer for that. I've got some ideas. I think, James, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you the same James as what you were 18 months ago or 10 years ago? The answer is probably no, right? And certainly when there's kids involved, I can't speak for my wife, but I can certainly speak for myself. And my priorities shifted massively when I became a father, and God, I love my kids more than life itself. But you, in turn, lose somewhat of an identity, and you certainly, if you're not careful, and certainly I haven't been, you kind of lose the trajectory and direction to which you're growing with the partner you're with, and so you end up just doing that. And I think many are. You don't need to be married to experience that. I think probably close to all relationships that break down suffer that to some degree. And yeah, that's currently what I'm going through. It's difficult, really difficult.
Yeah, I can relate to that on several different occasions. What I found my own personal experience with relationships is that I'm obsessed in personal and spiritual growth. So much so I'll do it every day, explore different things. But it also means that my level of growth goes through the window. So my identity changes within one week. I'm not the same I was last week. I'm completely different.
Should you still not?
And if one person decides they don't want to progress as fast, and you are, there's this gap. And I feel this gap is what splits people apart. So it's almost, and I think different phases for your life, there might be times where you're just like, oh, let's carry on kind of thing. And, you might just kind of thing with a partner. But at the same time, you might have a partner who you grow with at a fast rate. And then suddenly things change. And I find that I'm at a point in my life now where I'm single and I'm looking for somebody who I can truly understand who they truly are, but at the same time, somebody who grows as fast as I grow. And so for me, it's a time of just being, especially for people out there, it's a time of being patient, trusting that that person will come, and not even looking for it. Whenever I look for it, I tend to push it away. And then same with life generally. You try to look for things, you tend to push them away because you almost feel like you're lacking it inside.
Yeah,
Whereas
absolutely.
if you kind of surrender, you've already got it. It just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, eh?
Yeah, it's massively. But it's with relationships. They're very difficult to navigate at times, but at the same time, they can be our biggest teachers.
Oh, 100% agree with that. I think every single relationship I've ever had, it teaches you something, whether that's a parent, a son, a daughter, a partner, a wife. I think that's probably the reason as to why relationships exist in this sort of physical realm. I think they're there to teach you, and every other adversity is as well. It's, I'm not pretending as though I have the answers, because I certainly don't, but I'm certainly on a quest to find them. That's kind of, I think, why we're all here, really, at some sort of deeper sort of existential level.
Yeah, I feel like. Oh, by the way, thank you for diverging that information. It's quite personal. Yeah. With relationships, I kind of have been through a 5-day festival romance.
Okay.
And it was great. It was great at the time. And I wanted it to carry on. I had this expectation that it was going to carry on. Expectations are the killer of any goal. Trust me on this. And I know I should know this, and I should be tapping my own Nasty man, yeah, bad man. But his idea now that there's almost a level of the reason why I wasn't very present in the relationship. So then now that's to do with myself, my focus, my purpose has changed slightly. And how do I create a safer, more present and connected man? And everything begins with ourselves. So, but this is my take on it. You can have the outside world, but if you're the same inside, the outside world will never change. You change from the inside out, everything changes. So if I did a podcast recently with a lady to do with the mindset of money and how people chase this external thing, this cash, money kind of thing. But if you change your whole way of thinking around money internally, so rather than seeing it as a physical thing, it's more energetic. And if you see it more as, if you change your beliefs internally about money, that will reflect on the outside. You'll start to see a more abundance kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Have you come across or read the book Money by Rob Moore?
No.
That was a really good sort of entry level book on money and how money works, and it really sort of changed my perspective on what money is and how to obtain it and how to lose it and how to get it back again. But yeah, Rob Moore, check him out. I think he was known as the disruptive entrepreneur, the UK based. He's an interesting chap.
I'll have to have a look at that. Because if you go back to what we're talking about, goal setting and our goals, I feel like sometimes, like, say, for example, you want to get ripped, you're going to be muscular, you're going to be ripped kind of thing, but that's almost an external goal. If we change it internally, our perception of what we actually want changes. But you, at the same time, I feel almost like you get there faster without doing anything. If you still have to do the workouts and the nutrition, but sometimes we put so much focus on the lack of not having it that we end up pushing it away.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, that. I'm not sure if I've got a qualified, well, I certainly don't have a qualified opinion, but so what you're sort of suggesting is because you're focusing on the lack of something, you will always remain lacking.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I get it.
So, for example, if you think about people who are really, really rich, but they are never not happy, that's quite often because they lack something internally.
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than externally. So if you think of it with regards to your body, we always search for something that we want. But if you want it, you're almost saying to yourself that I haven't got it. When you get into the mindset of I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I'm confident, I'm all this kind of stuff, and you start to build it internally for whatever means, whether it's visualization, meditation, whether that's changing your beliefs, hypnotherapy, inner child healing, I feel like we get there faster because we already have it, so we attract it.
Or sort of, it's probably a bit of a meditation or a notion on law of attraction, right?
Yeah. Law of attraction's a small part to do with it.
Yeah, like believe, conceive, achieve. Yeah.
That's how it all came about, I think. But let's change a little bit. When you left me a voice note and you wanted to talk about nutrition and fitness myth busting. Let's go there.
Oh, you've got 4 hours free, James.
What are some of the biggest nutrition and fitness myths that we can bust right now?
Okay. Oh, this is going to be provocative, and I really don't mean to be. Okay, I'm going to have to articulate this as best as I can. So, England is one of the most obese depressed nations on the planet. Yet we have more gyms, health professionals than most other countries on the planet. Agreed?
I can probably agree. It's to do with the population density, I assume.
Yeah, per square capita, shall we say.
Yeah.
So obviously something's not working. And I think this country is obsessed by measuring two metrics. And I'm not saying not to, but hear me out. So we're obsessed by counting calories and we're obsessed on counting steps. They're not the only metrics though, and people really, really hone in too much on it. So for example, like a lot of people won't, first of all, like this isn't me, this is like just an observational, honest conversation, and people won't mess with anyone's free will. If you want to continue counting calories and doing your 20,000 million steps a day, that's up to you. But if you've been doing that for like 18 months and your body fat is still 31% and you're still a dress size 16, it ain't working. So it goes back to that lack of system. The system you're using isn't working. So you have to change it, or don't, but then don't moan about being fat. Now, I can probably give one example very quickly about how calories in, calories out doesn't essentially work. So there are 3 metabolic types on this planet. So a metabolic type is a posh term used to describe what foods are compatible with your digestive system. You have someone who's fats, proteins type. So as the name might suggest, people who can metabolize fats and proteins very well, but have a less tolerance to carbohydrates. That is typically people who live in England. Anyone who living in sort of colder climates, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe, England, etc. Then you have mixed types, so people who can largely metabolize a fair ratio of all macronutrients, 33% carbs, 33% fats, 33% proteins. Now that leads people into a false sense of security that they can eat what they like, which is not true. And then you have sort of perhaps the most restrictive, but maybe at face value the most interesting metabolic type, which is your carboid types. And people think, oh, I'd love to be that because who doesn't like a Twix? The problem with that is you have a less tolerance to protein. You can metabolize moderate levels of protein, but you certainly can't metabolize fats, no more than I can carbohydrates. So unless you're willing to live on rice and porridge, you're bang in trouble. Now, this is the problem with calorie counting. As a fats proteins type, so someone who can't metabolize much carbohydrates, trust me, I've tried multiple times. If you give Ash 500 grams of a ribeye steak, 500 calories of a ribeye steak, or 250 grams of a Mars bar, who's going to live longer, perform better, be happier? Well, it's evidently going to be Ash, who's eating steak. But the calorie in versus calorie out brigade would argue that Ash living on a Mars bar would live better because he's living in a calorie deficit. So I'm not saying calorie in, calorie out isn't a metric to consider. I'm saying it's not a metric to consider. And you really, really, really need to be super careful and sensible about what you're eating and establishing what metabolic type you are before you even can have a discussion with yourself or a nutritionist or personal trainer or an equivalent about what calories you should be having. And this conversation, I listen to podcasts and YouTube and research on a daily basis. No one's having this conversation. And second to that, like, you might be, I've got a client at the moment and she came to me severely overweight and she was living on 900 calories a day for the past 9 weeks, I think it was. No, 8 weeks was it. And initially, of course, you see a drop in weight because your body's like living on nothing. I was going to say a name there. I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. You're this metabolic type. You're having 900 calories of all macronutrients that your body can't metabolize and process. So you're storing it. And the problem with that is where the hell do you go from there? Do you like then cut it to 700 calories? Like, are you just not going to eat forever? Your body can't perform on that. Your body is a Ferrari. You got to fill it up if you're going to go for a journey. And we're all on a journey, whether you exercise or not. Like, you need to function. So I actually almost, and this is no word of a lie, on my children's life, I almost doubled her calorie intake to 1,700 calories a day. And to be fair to her, she had to put a lot of faith in me that I knew what I was talking about. And I gave her foods that are compatible with her digestive system. And she's still a client now, and she's dropped 3.5 stone on double the calorie. So it's not just about calorie. Now, at some point, we probably will need to revisit her calorie intake. And if she starts to plateau and she wants to drop a bit more weight, then I might gradually bring into a bit more of a deficit. But until that point's reached, there's absolutely no need to be living on 900 calories of bread and cereal, like for example. So yeah, that's that. And and again, like, I'm not telling people or trying to suggest for a second to not count your steps, because increasing or being at least like conscientious in terms of your physical activity is important. But unless you're squatting, deadlifting, actually there's a difference between being physically active and training. And the intensity at which you train creates the stimuli for your body to have to develop, grow. If I just see too many people who, unfortunately, and I'm trying to not sound provocative or judgmental, but there are one too many people who live the office life, who, it's Karen's birthday, here's a muffin, and one won't have, let's have wine after our dinner tonight. And they're doing everything else wrong, but as long as they get their 10,000 steps in a day, it's not a problem. It's like, that is, to me, that's insanity. Like, what are you doing? So I'm hopefully nothing else. I'm from this conversation, like I'm hopefully going to give people a little bit more of a perspective as to what they need to do to get to where they want to be on that front, at least.
So the people who want to know their metabolic type, where can they go, or who can they get in contact with?
Well, they can come and see me. That'd be a very easy way to establish what metabolic type you are. So when I first had Elite Health and Performance, I used to send the clients off for a blood test. And then I read, it was accurate, but it was time consuming and financially not doable for some of my clients. Then I came across a book by Paul Chek, who is like, if I like a Mount Rushmore personal trainers, he would be at the center of it. He's like the godfather. He is the guy who like came across like and designed the concept of what the core is. And he was the guy that designed the Swiss ball, and he lectures to back surgeons, for God's sake. Like, he is like way above my pay grade, and he's like 65, lives in California. He's the founder of the Chek Institute. And anyway, he had this book called How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy. And within that book, he discussed metabolic type. And I was like, this is another person who I hold in high regard who's discussing metabolic typing. And he had, I think it was like a 48 question questionnaire that he got his clients to fill out. And it was in the book. So I used the same questionnaire, and I got my clients to fill out this questionnaire, which saved them going for a blood test. And it gave me, with 85% accuracy, it helped me ascertain what metabolic type they were. And then I found something else out about 8 years ago, which blew my mind, which you won't even... So the quickest way to ascertain what metabolic type you are is answer the following questions. James, where were you born, buddy?
We do it now?
Yeah.
Stafford. You can.
Parents.
Good question. I don't actually know.
UK, do you reckon?
No, UK. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can say that there's a high probable chance that your fat's protein type. And the reason behind that is very simple. And once I learned this, how have I not known this before? This makes total sense. It was like an epiphany. Our digestive system is designed to consume foods and drink that are native to the country we're born in.
Okay.
Simple as that. So this is the other problem that we see, like, certainly on like the YouTube and the Instagrams and the TikToks, so we know because I'm not on social media, but there's a lot of discussion and debate and arguing about, what diet to go on. Is it carnivore? Is it keto? Is it plant-based? Do you do intermittent fast? And they're probably all right and all wrong at the same time. So if you were born in, say, Hawaii, somewhere near the equator, or let's say the Amazon rainforest, say your heritage comes from Peru, you're going to have a capacity far more capable of metabolizing fruits and vegetables than I would. So the chances are that you could probably live plant-based and operate and perform optimally. If you gave me a plant-based diet, I would perish. Because my digestive system can't unlock the nutrition from the food. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a load of people with all the best intentions on the planet trying to make the right choices in terms of what to eat for dinner tonight. But because they're probably not eating in line with the metabolic type, the body can't unlock the nutrition from the food they're eating. Yeah. The calories remain irrelevant.
So proteins and fats mean that my diet's got to be primarily proteins and fats.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, got you.
Yes.
I'll take that in now. Let's do 3 myth busting. So that's the first myth. What's the second?
Oh, another myth. Oh man, I've got a couple, so I'm trying to work out what would be best for the listeners and the viewers to hear and watch. I think there's a ton. I think, oh man, like, okay, let's talk the core for a second. Like, quite frequent question I get asked with a predetermined or a preconceived idea is that if I do sit-ups and if I hold the plank for half an hour, I'm going to get a 6-pack and it's going to burn a ton of fat around my abdomen. Waste of time. Like, the problem is, like, if I asked someone what the core is, could you give me an answer? Try not to put you on the spot, sorry, James, but I've watched you train. You've got good, intelligent training, and your method is good, and you're consistent with it. But if I asked you what the core was, would you be able to give me an answer?
So the core is made up of several different sections, and it also links into the other muscle groups as well.
Absolutely.
It's obviously, if I remember right, you've got the main core section, but then the core things down into the quads and the glutes, which connects also to the back.
It definitely does.
Yeah, it's quite complex.
It is. It's extremely complex until you define what it is. And quite simply, it's any and all muscles that stabilize the spine. Simple as that. Now, that then brings its own complexities, because if you're squatting heavy, for argument's sake, your latimus dorsi become a core muscle because they're hugging the spine. And the latimus dorsi is considered a global muscle. It's never considered. You can put core muscles in Google now, and it'll just tell you about the thoracic fascia region and your TVA, your internal external obliques. That's right. It's not wrong. But my point being is, like, to think that we can spot reduce fat around the abdomen by doing some crunches and going to a core class is nonsense. Like, you will be far better off eating in line with your nutrition, with your metabolic type. And the other thing about sort of burning fat is as humans, we distribute fat in areas of the body for a reason, and it's a hormonal reason. So this is another concept designed by Charles Poliquin, the late and great Charles Poliquin. I think Charles Poliquin is probably the best ever strength and conditioning coach to have ever lived. Like, again, he is up there on my Mount Rushmore of coaches. He passed away in 2018, unfortunately. Was it? Yeah, 2018. But he came up with this concept of biosignature sites. So he could explain, at least with the suggestion, that people store X amount of body fat, on their triceps or on their abdomen for hormonal reason. And once you address that and identify the hormonal reason, where you're deficient and where you're lacking in maybe nutritionally, then you can substitute that or supplement it or change your training and program design to actually hit that area. So, for example, I don't know as a ratio how many of your listeners are sort of men versus women, but quite a common one for women is the bingo wing effect, right? So that would suggest that women's natural levels of testosterone are too low and the natural levels of estrogen are too high, which sounds super counterintuitive because we associate women that they should have high levels of estrogen to testosterone, and that is right, but they also need a seesaw fair amount of testosterone. So having too high levels of estrogen in relation to the testosterone, they'll still body fat around the tricep. Men, if you're anything like me, guys, hello. If I store body fat like I'm currently doing at the moment because I'm eating carbohydrates, we insulin sensitive, so you're probably eating too many carbohydrates, and your pancreas is having to produce too much insulin to try and bring the sugar levels back down again, and it gets stored fat around the umbilical area, and or your cortisol levels are too high, which is a stress hormone. And going through a separation, divorce, of course, my cortisol levels are going to be high, so I'm noticing a slight increase in my belly fat. Now, me doing 2,000 sit-ups a day and holding the plank for 2 hours isn't going to change that. So save your time, people. Don't do that. That's another myth.
Just on the idea of the core being the primary, what's the core? The core is the muscles connected to the.
Yeah, so the core is a family of muscles that are responsible for stabilizing the spine.
Okay. Funny thing is, the lighter the weights, the more dangerous they are. Because you don't.
Yeah, you don't think about engaging your core when you're picking up a set of keys or picking up an empty box at work. It'd be interesting. I don't know the stats on this, but it'd be interesting to take 100 people who have slipped a disc and ask them how they did it. I bet you they probably would be like, "Oh, I just got out the car funny." It's because they're or an equivalent. And I think it's because their core can't engage and stabilize the spine. Simple as that. And there are core exercises that are very, very useful and beneficial to improving core strength. But isolating the core, we think it works. You got to be super careful with that because you'll overdevelop parts of the core and then leave other parts of the core weak, and that gulf will just start to become bigger and bigger and bigger, like failed relationships.
So just on that topic, what kind of exercises can people do to start to engage their core more? So things like that.
Yes, it's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm going to give you a bit of a vague answer. I can't categorically give people a jelly mold answer because everyone has different biomechanical weaknesses and strengths. So for me to be able to ascertain what core exercises I would give you, James, I'd have to screen your core and see what part of the core is weak versus what part of the core is overdeveloped. Now, saying that, typically, there is a fantastic screening process that I use to measure if someone's weak or indeed strong in their core. And it's called the lower abdominal coordination test, which they can use, which they can do by using an old traditional blood pressure cuff. And you put the blood pressure cuff underneath your L3, L4 of your spine on the floor. You pump it up to a set degree, and I get you doing tons of weird movements to help me ascertain what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. So unfortunately, I can't say, do you sit
the wood
the wood chop? Because it might be good for you, but it probably won't be good for anyone else. And that's the thing with personal training. Like the personal training online, this is great, Mitt. I'm gonna have to. So I'm getting on my high horse here, James. Sorry. Personal,
All right.
personal PT online. It's a failed personal trainers. I don't know one successful personal trainer who's gone on. I don't know any successful personal trainers, despite what they tell you on Instagram, who have gone chosen to go online. Maybe a couple of exceptions, and I wonder what their ethics are. So the reason why I became a personal trainer and will continue to is because I genuinely want to raise and improve the nation's health. Like, people might question my motivations, perhaps, if they saw me on a bus station because I've got tattoos and a set of biceps. Less so nowadays, but I genuinely at the forefront of the reason why I personal train is to be a personal trainer. I don't want to be online dishing out the same jelly mold nutrition plans to Sally, Jane, Mary, and Nigel who work in accounts. That's not personal training. That is a jelly mold approach that doesn't work. It isn't ethical, and it's just a money grab. And I really, really, really want to challenge that, because people find, I think one of the biggest objections I have, or obstacles that I have, and I'm sure a lot of personal trainers out there would agree with me, is people see it as a financial issue, like to be able to commit to it long term. But I'm really cheap. And if I can make you live 10 years longer, then surely you'd want to pay me what I charge. Like, you could, let's talk about budget gyms and pure, sort of the pure gyms, the gym groups, the JD Sports. Like, don't get me wrong, there are some very, very good gyms, and they might charge £25 a month. But if you don't use that gym, that becomes expensive. Does it make sense? So you can pay an online PT £100 a month, or whatever the subscription is. I guarantee you will get the same jelly mold template that is used for 10 other clients. It's just changed the calorie, and it's probably asked you what your weight is, or her or she, and he's just going to present you the same chicken, rice, and broccoli that is done for the last 10 clients has had. That is an expensive way to operate. That is a very, very costly, expensive choice to make to not get to where you want to be. And I really, really encourage people to think twice. I won't mess with anyone's free will. There might be an exceptional online coach somewhere that I'm unfamiliar with. Hats off to them if they can make it work, 100%. In my experience, I haven't seen one yet. And it's not only is it not helping, it's actually lowering the standard of personal training. And I've got a real big passion about that. People say they're passionate about fitness. Unless you're cleaning mats at 6:30 in the morning and doing it 6 days a week like I am, don't talk to me about passion. Like, I have a passion for this. I research it in bed at night. And I am deeply concerned at the climate of this nation's health and what we aren't doing.
I have time for one more myth. What's it going to be?
Oh, I don't know. I've exhausted my options.
I know what we can talk about quickly. We mentioned it earlier. CrossFit.
Oh,
let's go there.
Okay. So I know, James, you love a bit of CrossFit, and that's brilliant. That's half the battle, bud. Like, and again, I won't mess with anyone's free will. Now, the biomechanical coach in me has one problem with it, and that is the program design of CrossFit is, I guess, sorry to use this term again, but it's quite jelly moldy. Would you disagree with that?
Well, no, because everybody follows the same plan.
Okay. So I'm not saying here's a disclaimer, bud. Like I'm not saying people won't achieve their results by going to CrossFit. I'm just saying biomechanically, there's a massive percentage chance that it's probably not the most optimal way for them to train.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Yeah.
One of my best friends who is an exceptional coach, he lives down south. Like I genuinely think he is by far the best personal trainer I've ever met in my life. Hat off to him. Chris Griffiths, great coach, got his own gym in Thatcham. He said to me once, "Oh my God, I've lost my train of thought. I was too busy picking him up." Oh, why headbutt your way through a concrete wall? We can use a door. And I think CrossFit's a little bit like that. Like I dig the intensity, I dig the work ethic, I like the sweat, the veins popping out, the big Olympic lifts, the run. I get it. I love the hard work and sort of the bro lifting mentality. I get it. Is it optimal? Definitely not. And I wouldn't say, I don't think CrossFit is a myth to be bust. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That I have reservations on it, but I also can see why it's appealing.
Yeah. Well, for me, CrossFit, I enjoy it. I think half the battle when it comes to goal setting, achieving in life, is finding things you enjoy.
Oh,
and
100%.
There's a lady the other day, I saw a woman I know, and she put a post on Facebook saying that put the things in your diary that you enjoy first before work, if you can.
What a great strategy that is. And it goes back to the system, right? Like that's a great system.
Yeah. And it's with CrossFit, I was talking about this earlier, weren't we? How there's so many complex moves. And my take on it is you have to take the ego out. Because if you go into CrossFit, and you've seen it so many times, and I've been there myself, if you go into CrossFit with this ego thinking, I'm going to try and match everybody in there, I'm going to try and beat this person, I reckon, let's say 8 times out of 10, somebody will get injured.
Yes.
But if you go in with a beginner's mindset to learn all these complex moves, then you'll progress fast.
100%. It goes back to that thing that I said earlier about like no black belt. All black belts are once a white belt. You have to have that mentality. Like, don't go in thinking you're going to be snatching, cleaning, and pressing 100 kilo. Because if you do, you're going to be banging trouble. But start with a bar. Work out the mechanics. Think about where your lift is suffering, like what the sticking point is, and work on that bit, and then go back to it again. I think you've got the healthy approach.
And then also, I think you're right. Learning the biomechanics, learning where your core needs to be worked on. Learn your metabolic type. And I suppose once you start to incorporate all these, anything becomes healthy.
Absolutely.
Bring it all in.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, you got to start with the fundamentals first, right? Like, okay, I need to eat better. Okay, well, ascertain what your metabolic type is and try and live by it. And other doors will start to open and sort of opportunities will present themselves. Yeah. But just don't, for God's sake, please, everyone, don't just go on a 900 calorie diet before your wedding. Like, don't do that.
Well, that's it. Everybody thinks sometimes people almost know something's coming up and then wait till last minute to start to do it.
Yeah, they go,
if you know your wedding's coming up in a year's time, you've got a whole year to get into shape. So then utilize yourself and get a PT and learn your metabolic type and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So can you tell me, Ashley, what is it that you do personally, and how can people get in contact?
And in terms of what I do personally, in terms of like within the gym go.
Yeah. With regards to the gym, yeah.
So what in terms of like my workout design, my program design?
So how can people get in contact, and
apologies.
What can you offer?
So I can offer people the opportunity to really, really unlock their potential on every level. I think one of my strengths is I like to be considered to be like certainly a mental and emotional support as well. I think that gets lost certainly on the online sort of PT game. A lot of my clients, to my detriment, sometimes are, they will contact me at 10 o'clock at night, and I'll respond as soon as I can if I'm not asleep by that time. I believe that you don't need to be or stay where you are. And I think a lot of people become depressed because they don't know what direction to go in. They don't have a belief or a system in place to help them get to where they want to be. And I'm that system, potentially. Now, in terms of making contact with me, I actually took a bit of a New Year's resolution back in 2021 about coming off all social media. And boy, is that maybe quite unique in some sense. Like I kind of get looked as though I've got leprosy when I tell people I'm not on social media, but it's a choice that I made. I took a stance and I've never really looked back. So if people did want to contact me, they're more than welcome to. I've got a bit of a waiting list at a moment. But James, if I send you my contact details and I can press a link, etc., they can contact me via that approach.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Ashley.
My pleasure, James. I appreciate you, buddy. Keep up with the work.
Thanks for tuning in to Man, A Quest to Find Meaning. If today's conversation sparked something in you, take a moment to reflect, then take a step. Remember, real growth comes from action, not just insight. If you found value in this episode, share it with a friend, leave a review, or reach out and let me know what resonated. Your feedback helps shape the journey we're on together. For more conversations like this, make sure to subscribe and stay connected. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn for updates, tools, and upcoming guests. Remember, it's not about having the answers, it's about daring to look.